Good morning, everyone. It is now Monday, October 16th, 2023, and this is the Monday Morning Report. I'm Thomas Caldwell of the Aurelian Column. First, I'd like to just mention a couple of other stories very briefly before I go into the story that everyone else wants to talk about or hear about. And that is the Russian-Ukrainian war is still going on, boys and girls. Yep, I have that on good authority. And Gonzalo Lira, the journalist who has been victimized and somewhat ignored by the U.S. government, is still being held in a Ukrainian prison for the crime of free speech. Isn't it interesting how suddenly everything has gone quiet about Ukraine and Russia? Earlier this week, Vladimir Putin said that the counteroffensive that the Ukrainians had launched has failed. No big surprise there. Unfortunately for the regime in Kiev, the American center of attention is now on Israel, and it looks like their supply of toys and ammunition will probably be cut short or maybe even dropped altogether. It'll be interesting to see what goes on in Ukraine between that belligerent and Russia while things are brewing and not that far away in the Middle East. Now, one thing to do about Mr. Lira is please keep up the pressure on your senator. If you have contacted your U.S. senator to ask about his whereabouts or to launch an investigation, send a follow-up message. Just call them up. Just call them up and say, I got a letter from the senator on this date, and I'd like to know what progress has been made. Put the pressure on them. They have a lot of stuff to deal with, and they probably don't want to deal with this much anymore, so use it to your advantage. Now, the latest on what can best be described as the unholy land. As I record this, there's still all sorts of reports coming out that Israel is just about or is imminently going to invade Gaza, more accurately northern Gaza from what we're hearing. The Gaza Strip is a tiny piece of land. It has, really tiny. It's the most densely populated place on Earth. Not much fewer than 3 million people in a very tightly packed bit of territory, only a few miles by a few miles, really. You know, it's a good distance if you're driving in a car for a couple hours, but it's not that big. And a landlord there is going to be a bloodbath for everyone involved. It already has been. It's effectively collapsed as a political entity with the water, electricity, food. Everything has just been cut off. It's a mess. Now, Israel, everyone is expecting them to roll in, and everyone's warning them not to roll in. And this is going to be interesting because, let's face it, the Hamas people want them to roll in. They've been planning this for years. That is obvious to anyone, whether or not you've had any military training or even read a book on military history. They will go into a hornet's nest, the Israelis, and they're going to lose an awful lot more people than the number that they've already lost. There is a possible scenario that could happen, and that is something that we all thought was going to happen back in 1991 during the first Gulf War. Now, a lot of people don't remember this, but when the U.S. was going up against Iraq in the first Gulf War, following the invasion of Iraq into Kuwait, Iraq launched missiles on Israel. They were landing on Israel. It was a real scary scenario because when we were watching television of these missiles coming in from Iraqi territory, a direct attack by the Republic of Iraq on Israel, we all thought that was it. But the Israelis basically were talked down from it. They held back. They showed amazing restraint. And the Americans came in and deals were done behind the scenes. And I'm pretty sure what you're seeing now are deals being done behind the scenes because the Israelis know what they're facing, and it's not going to be a cakewalk if they march into Gaza. It's not going to be anything close to a cakewalk. They were caught blindsided, and there's a lot that went on there that they didn't know about, and there's probably a lot that's waiting for them that they don't know about. And they know that. Now, one of the other interesting things that happened last week, I reported that the Israelis had been disarmed. Now their government's passed out weapons like candy, which is interesting. And there are still Hamas fighters operating in Israel, which is also kind of an interesting thing. But let me tell you this. I did some reading on a great deal of how they pulled this off, the Hamas people. And they were able to hit very specific, not very well advertised military bases. There was one report showing that when they got on, they had color-coded maps of facilities. There was a lot of indication that there was a lot of inside information that you would not have expected any foreign power to get. So the question has to be asked, do they have people inside the Israeli government? Is that possible? And you know what it is. The Israelis have taken in so many people over the decades, and there are traditions, especially the traditions of the Hassasins, which is a long story I won't go into here, where people could make it into a country and infiltrate it over a period of many decades and stay hidden. Somebody would go in and enter the king's court or ruler's court in the Middle East and lay hidden for 10, 20, sometimes 30 years and then strike when ordered to. This is not uncommon. You think of how well thought out this has been. There probably was a lot of inside information. I don't see how it can come otherwise. So with all those question marks and all this negotiation going on behind the scenes and money being the power to cure most things, including people's deaths, it's not impossible that there could be a scaling back of this. One would hope so, because if everybody making threats carries them out, it's going to be a major, major regional war. Not necessarily World War III, but a major regional war that will lead to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people everywhere. And nothing will be the same there again. There won't be any more teenagers having raves on the Gaza border anytime soon again. But if this whole blows up into where it could really blow up, all on account of the Hamas religious fanatics, no one's going to win. So there is a possibility the Israelis could scale this back. One can hope. Do I have any inside information? No. I just am looking to history. They could have gone to war directly with Iraq during the first Iraq War, first Gulf War, but they didn't. They held back. They might do that again. Other than that, there is an awful lot of pain that's now coming out of that part of the world. There's not going to be peace there anytime soon. And one would hope that the U.S. and other countries learn to mind their own business and stay away from it. But right now, at the time I'm recording this, which is late in the morning of Monday, things got done a little bit later today, you'll find out when I find out. Just be a little bit hopeful, and to keep sane in this insane world, focus on your own things. Focus on your own abilities, your own physical health, your own mental health, your own education. Just focus on that a little bit. As a journalist, that's what I had to do all the time, because I was constantly being bombarded with all sorts of crazy things. It was just as crazy back in the 1990s as it is now, just differently. And you got to escape into something that's sane. So try to find some time this week, no matter what goes down, to read a good novel of something positive, or write a letter to a friend, or something like that. Go out and have a nice dinner. Make yourself a nice dinner, which is even better. It's important to keep a sense of humor, and it's important to keep a sense of perspective. And hopefully next week I'll have more interesting things to report about. But as of now, that's it. If you like what you hear or read on my column on Substack, please like and subscribe. And if you can make a donation or bother with a paid subscription, that also helps me keep the lights on and spend more time doing this, which I would very much like to do. And from the Aurelian Column, thank you for listening. Be good, be safe, and good day.